exciting to be here. It makes me so hopeful. It makes me feel like this is not just winnable, but that in fact we've already won. And I feel like we've already won because people get how incredibly broken and pathetic, shameful, useless, and dysfunctional this current system is, both by way of our climate and our economy. We don't need to convince people. You know, in a world where 1 out of 2 Americans is in poverty or low income and heading for poverty, where 9 out of 10 jobs being created for the foreseeable future in the United States now are low income, low wage, insecure, low benefit jobs. This is what the future looks like, where 36 million students are essentially indentured servants who are in debt and who don't have the jobs to be able to get their way out of debt. Half of all college graduates now are working jobs that you don't need a college degree for, so they're carrying around college debt without being able to get college jobs. You know, this is what our economy looks like, yet we continue to bail out the banks. $85 billion a month. This is bailout number 3, going into some $7 or $20 trillion worth, depending on how you count it. And we're still bailing out the banks. They have more money than ever. They are not loaning it to people. They're not loaning it to businesses. Businesses aren't growing because they know that everyday people don't have money to spend. So, you know, the system is in complete gridlock. But we don't have to convince people that it's broken. We just need to let people know that there is an alternative and that we can fix this. As Alice Walker and others before her have said, the biggest way people give up power is by not knowing that we have it to start with. But we do have it. And, you know, I think one of the most exciting things of this particular historic moment that we're in, you know, in the middle of this climate crisis, when we have gathered from all across the country not to have Obama's back, but to tell him to get out of the way. You know, I think some of the leadership here may be trying to constrain the message. But from what I'm hearing down in the street, that's not what people are thinking here out in the street. People feel like we need someone at our back, not someone stabbing us in the back. And just a few words about that. With the recent State of the Union address, I don't know how many had the misfortune of listening to it. But if you need some good therapy, we did a green rebuttal alternative, which you can get to through the Green Party website at GPUS. Highly therapeutic to understand that, you know, they can only shove this stuff on us by silencing our voices, which is why they work so hard, which is why they arrested Sherry Honkala and myself and chained us to chairs for 8 hours for the duration of the debates. Because if people were to hear us, if they were to hear what you are saying in this room, they agree with us, and they would never put up with this, knowing that there's a different way to do it. And it's not only, you know, the crash of our economy, it's also the crash of our climate. The fact that with less than 1 degree centigrade, you know, we are having record heat waves, storm, drought, rising food prices, floods, in fact, which have closed down our nuclear power plants even. You know, that's how sustainable that mode of energy is. It's not only that a flood can shut it down, but also droughts will put our nuclear plants into incredible peril because it takes an awful lot of water to keep the nuclear power plants cool and to keep the rods cool. This is a disaster waiting to happen. And, you know, you put it all together, we've got an incredible crisis on our economy, an incredible crisis on our climate, and there is Obama in the State of the Union address basically saying, what do we need? We need more free trade agreements, you know, to keep sending our jobs overseas and undermining our wages at home. You know, he's talking about the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which is NAFTA on steroids, and now talking also about an Atlantic Partnership, which will be, you know, just unthinkable. He's talking about raising the minimum wage, and that's nice, but what is he talking about? $9 an hour, which basically means locking working people, again, into poverty wages. That is a poverty wage. We need a living And on climate, as you know, he talked about all of the above as the solution. As far as the climate is concerned, the climate doesn't care about renewable energy. The climate cares about greenhouse gases. Renewable energy is important because it allows you to reduce greenhouse gases and meet human needs. But if you're producing renewable energy and you're skyrocketing your output of carbon dioxide and methane through fracking and other greenhouse gases, nature doesn't know and nature doesn't care. What the climate cares about is the carbon dioxide that you're putting out. And that's what, you know, Obama is skyrocketing. You know, there's a new name for this country. It's called Saudi America, because we are on our way to being, you know, the #1 oil producer. And there was Obama bragging in the State of the Union address about having boosted oil production greater than it's been in the last 15 years and gas production greater than it's ever been. At the same time that he has the gall, you know, to pretend that he's now the climate president and he's rescuing the climate while he's, you know, embracing this drill baby drill, all of the above policies. So it's absolutely outrageous. And what made me, I guess, sort of not lose my mind in watching that address was seeing him really shooting himself in the foot. And I thought, oh my God, he's done this right before the climate rally. He's basically blown his cover, because anyone who's not asleep at the wheel knows that to be talking about all of the above and escalating methane production and fracking and offshore oil and using our national lands and our national parks to be expediting this and devising ways around regulation so that we can hurry up and make it happen faster. You know, it said to me, wow, this has got to be the breaking point for the climate movement. And I must say that being here, I am so feeling that from even the conversations on the bus for the last 12 hours on the way down here, that, you know, people just cannot conscience this, what's been the party line here about having Obama's back and about Obama being the great leader who's going to lead us out of this wilderness. He's not, you know. He is the misleader that we need to leave behind, and the sooner we do it, the better we're going to fix this problem. So from my point of view, we're not here to beg and plead on bended knees with Obama. We're here basically to protest his failure to stop the Keystone Pipeline and to say that we are the ones who are going to stop the Keystone Pipeline. You know, let's give credit where it's due, because I likewise cannot see any chance, you know, in hell that he's going to stop the Keystone Pipeline. They're already building it. ExxonMobil was one of the major funders of Obama's inaugural festivities. You know, there is no way that Obama is saying to ExxonMobil and all the other oil companies that he's going to stop their investment. This is what the American economy is about now. It has been, you know, we have become a third world oil developing country. When in his speech he talked about, let's bring in those big corporations like we are some colonial nation that needs to import the powerful multinational corporations to tell us how to run an economy. You know, thank you very much. You can keep your multinational corporations and, you know, and good riddance to you all. We can create our own economy right here, a worker-friendly economy, a people-powered economy, a 99% economy. And that's what the Green New Deal is all about. And I'll just say a word about that. The Green New Deal, you know, it's not like we need to reinvent the wheel here. We already have a good time-tested solution. They're talking about austerity. You know, they keep inventing this national debt crisis, which is, you know, it is a concocted crisis. We're paying 6% of our GDP on national debt right now. Under George H. Bush, we were paying 15%. So, you know, in the spectrum of American history, we are at a low point, a relatively low and manageable point in the national debt. So this is all part of that irrational, concocted world that we're living in that has nothing to do with rational thought or actual reality. This is just a public relations campaign of the corporate 1% to continue squeezing more profits out of people and out of the environment. You know, it's nonsense. It's to be rejected. We're seeing evidence right now in Europe of what austerity does to us. You know, austerity will make a bad recession, it will turn it into a real depression. And that's what it did in the 1930s as well. So we know that austerity is not the solution. Cutting jobs is not the solution. It's creating jobs which is the solution. And that's what we need to do. Not 1 million jobs, which is what the president was talking about. We need to create 24 million jobs and put an end to unemployment so that everyone has a job, a good living wage job, at the same time that we are creating the transformed green energy, relocalized economy. And the Green New Deal would do that on an emergency basis, create a Marshall Plan, essentially for transforming the economy like now, not in 5 years, but now. And that can be done. And we would do that by investing in clean renewable energy and conservation. We can put millions of people to work. We don't need the Keystone Pipeline. The Keystone Pipeline creates mostly temporary, transient jobs. I saw one figure today suggesting that it would create 20 permanent jobs. We don't need to look to energy that kills us, that destroys our environment, that pollutes the planet in order to create jobs. We can create jobs right now for people who don't even have high school degrees in conservation, weatherization, insulation, and so on. We can put the jobs right now in the communities that need them at the same time that we drastically undercut our energy use. We can create sustainable, local, organic agriculture in our communities. We can create public transportation, which is renewable and energy efficient. We can create clean manufacturing. And at the same time, we can also create the jobs that meet our social needs for health care. Let's hire back those hundreds of thousands of teachers who've been laid off and get them back into our schools. That's what we need, not like state poverty. Poverty is the problem with our school systems. It is not our teachers, and it's definitely not our teachers' union. So, you so these solutions are there. There's enormous public support for all of this, for creating a Medicare for all healthcare system that would put everybody into a complete healthcare system. At the same time that we would save, it doesn't cost us, it saves us trillions of dollars over the next decade. We can pay down that deficit simply by moving to a Medicare for all single-payer healthcare system. Forget austerity. Add Medicare for all to taxing the rich, which we need to do, a very small sales tax on Wall Street. We in this room are paying 10% sales tax. How come Wall Street isn't paying any?
Come on now.
They can pay a 0.5%. They can pay a 0.5% sales tax. It will generate $350 billion a year. That right there is practically enough to pay for the Green New Deal, the cost of creating 25 million jobs. So we've got solutions. When they say that there's no money, what they really mean is that there's no money for you. There's plenty of money for wars, Wall Street bailouts, and tax breaks for the wealthy. So we're going to say, we're changing that all around. And by the way, do you know where 50% of our carbon emissions come from? The 1%. So how about that? If we begin to create a more equitable society, then suddenly that 1% no longer has that money to burn, which they use to burn up the planet with. So, there's a climate scientist in the UK named Kevin Anderson, I believe. He's sort of like the Jim Hansen of the United Kingdom. And he makes the point, it's not unfixable. We can actually fix this. Yeah, in many ways, we are right at those tipping points. But we can deal with this right now. It'll take 10 years to convert our energy system. But if we can just get the 1% to behave, and there are many ways to do that, and it's not by asking nicely. We can drastically reduce our emissions overnight, because behavior which is incentivized and induced can be changed. It doesn't take 10 years to build a whole infrastructure to change behavior. So it's possible to change behavior, to put a tax on carbon, to change our energy patterns, our energy utilization, to say no to fracking, no to the Keystone, no to more offshore oil. We have to start reducing our carbon expenditure budget right now, not continuing to grow it by smaller amounts. We have to start cutting it now, and in doing so, we can create more healthy, resilient, and prosperous, sustainably prosperous and equitable communities. This is within our reach. We have the power. It's all about standing up and asserting that power. It's about building this kind of coalition between the Green Party and the ISO and the Ecosocialist Alliance. This is how we begin to do it. It is between workers and students and the climate movement. We have all hit the breaking point. We are beyond the breaking point. So this is a really good time to turn the breaking point into a tipping point. And let's take back our democracy and the future we deserve.